Hey, long time no see. Glad to run into you. I was just relaxing, taking a break from running bounties, farming resources, the usual, you know? But you're looking a bit frustrated. What's got you upset? Oh, you're getting tired of shooting marshmallows, aren't you? Not happy just tickling your enemies? Feel like you're doing more damage emotionally than physically? Well, not to worry. Let's take a close look at that weapon of yours and see what we can do. Let's start by saying that trying to figure out damage in Warframe can get complicated. There's folks out there that have spent hours going deep into statistics, formulas, and calculations to break everything down. They've analyzed each complex factor and every possible combination to squeeze out every last drop of damage potential. That's not what we're going to do today. Instead, we're going to take a look at modding and weapons in general, explain some of the key damage dealing characteristics, and how we can use mods to improve the performance of every weapon. We're going to focus on how modding works, and try to find a balance between the cost and benefit, specifically for early game players where resources may be scarce. Finally, I'm going to leave you with some tips and suggestions to help you get the best out of your own personal modding experience. Let's get started, first with some really simple basics. Modding in Warframe is the cornerstone of improving the power and performance of everything. You get mods in a couple ways, from just playing the game, to specific game modes like bounties, to long duration runs in endless missions such as defense, survival, or excavation. This is the anatomy of a basic mod. In the top right corner, you'll see the cost or drain to your capacity along with a little symbol which is called polarity. Each mod has a name as well as a description of what it actually does. Both can be used for searching your mod collection. Below this, you'll see the mod's category, whether it's a rifle mod, a Warframe mod, or intended for something else. Finally, at the bottom, a series of dots indicate the mod's rank. Unranked mods are all dark, and each rank up will result in a single illuminated dot. Altogether, we're looking at a rank 0 copy of Serration, which improves damage from rifle-type weapons, and takes 4 capacity with a Matter-Eye polarity. You can interact with your mods either in the mod segment of your orbiter, or directly from the screens in your arsenal. Now, let's look quickly at the mod segment of your orbiter. Let's start with the bottom half, which shows every single mod you currently possess. You can navigate by cycling between the various categories in the middle, including Warframe mods, weapon mods, companion mods, and other general categories. The search tool is on the left, which allows you to search by keywords. On the right, you can sort your mods in a couple ways, including by rarity, alphabetically, or highlighting your duplicates first. At the top, you'll see several options, including Fusion, which is the process of ranking up your mods, Transmute, which allows you to take 4 mods or copies and turn them into a different mod, as well as whether you want to sell mods for credits or dissolve for Endo. Pro tip, never sell your mods for credits. Always dissolve them for Endo. The last option on the right, Ayatan Treasures, is loosely connected with modding, as it's a source of Endo. Getting back to the mods themselves, to rank up a specific mod, select the mod, then click Fusion. You can then navigate left and right to select the specific rank, with the associated cost shown at the bottom. Now that we walked through mods and how to level them up, let's take a look at the receiving end. Every weapon, Warframe, companion, and vehicle in the game can be modded. The intent of modding is to customize the characteristics of whatever's being modded, whether that's for extra damage, extra range, or to add new features. Most modding screens will include the current characteristics of whatever you're modding for on the left, as well as a series of empty cells or mod slots. In some cases, there will be a small symbol at the top right of a mod slot, indicating that this is a polarized slot. Matching the polarity of a mod with the polarity of a mod slot reduces the cost by half, always rounded up. If you install a mod with a different polarity, it will have a higher cost. You'll also see your mod capacity in the top left corner. New items, whether that's Warframes, weapons, or companions, will have a starting mod capacity matching your personal mastery rank, or MR. If you're at MR5, for example, all new items will have a starting capacity of 5. Every time you level up the item, you'll get an additional mod capacity, up to the maximum of level and capacity 30, although this can be increased in a number of different ways. For Warframes, Aura mods increase your total capacity by double the cost of the mod itself, if you can match polarity. Otherwise, it will only increase by the cost of the mod. For melees, stance mods do the same thing. Additionally, you can use rare items like Forma and Orokin catalysts or reactors to further increase your total capacity, but more on this later. Every time you add a mod, it subtracts the mod's cost or drain from your total capacity. The higher the mod's rank, the more expensive it is to equip. Now that we've covered the basics of mods and modding, let's go back to the issue at hand. How do I increase the damage of my weapon? For this exercise, we're going to play around in the simulacrum, a testing ground of sorts, which allows us to mess around with various enemies, weapons, and abilities. If you're interested in unlocking your own simulacrum, I'll be covering this in a future video, so consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be using Excalibur, a starter Warframe without any external damage buffs or effects. I'll also be using the Paris bow for demonstration purposes. It's not ideal, as it's a bow with two sets of numbers, one for quick shots and another for charge shots. However, I wanted a weapon with a slow fire rate and simple round numbers. Let's start off with some basic weapon stats. The first section gives you some idea of performance and feel, such as how long it will take to reload, or how large your magazine is, and how fast the fire rate is. Since this is a bow, however, we see charge time instead of fire rate, and we see that we can only shoot one arrow at a time. Although these have some impact on the amount of damage you can deal out, we'll be focusing on the more relevant stats, which are further down. For simplicity, and because it's a pain to keep scrolling up and down, let's just look at the quick shot numbers for now. The critical chance is the likelihood that the next shot will apply your critical multiplier to your damage. In this case, our weapon has a 30% critical chance, meaning that on average, 3 out of every 10 shots will apply a 2 times critical multiplier to our damage. Similarly, the status is the likelihood that the next shot will have some type of status bonus effect, such as puncture, which reduces the enemy's damage and increases critical chance, impact, which staggers enemies and increases the chance of finishing moves, or slash, which applies a damage over time or dot effect that bypasses armor and goes straight to their health. Regardless of critical and status, the total damage potential for each shot is a sum of each of these types of damage. Based on the numbers for this weapon, with 120 under puncture, 8 under impact, and 32 under slash, our Paris can deal 160 damage total with each quick shot. To calculate the likelihood of each shot having a specific status effect, hover over status. These numbers are the proportion of each damage type divided by the total damage multiplied by the status chance. For puncture, for example, 120 puncture damage divided by 160 total damage is 75%. 75% times the 10% status chance means that there's a 7.5% chance of the next shot applying a puncture status effect. A charged shot is when we draw the bow back fully before we take our shot. If we look quickly at these numbers, we can see that the potential damage output is double, with a slight variation on the distribution between puncture and slash. Now that we understand a bit more about the various numbers and categories, let's see how it performs against a typical enemy. Our test subject for today will be Gary the Grenier, a level 40 enemy. At level 40, Gary is usually found in the mid to late star chart, enjoying quiet walks through spacefaring galleons or helping out at the local shipyard. But even though Gary's mid to late star chart, we need someone chonky enough to experiment with. Let's see how our Paris performs without any mods. Right away, you'll notice that the damage we inflict is different from the weapon statistics due to Gary's armor. Since we're fully charging the bow, we should be inflicting 320 damage for these types of shots, however we're only inflicting about 168. Enemies with armor absorb more damage with less of this damage directly to their health. This is why, if you watch other videos, armor stripping can make a huge difference to gameplay. And you'll notice that without mods, it takes a while for our Paris to inflict enough damage to get through Gary's health and armor. You can see a couple of the shots were critical hits, as denoted by the color, inflicting double the damage, and we managed to apply a status effect or two. But this is our baseline. Without mods, it takes about 24 or 25 shots and about 40 seconds to knock Gary down. Fine if you happen to run into Gary alone, not so good if Gary's got friends. So, let's use some mods and see if we can improve our performance. Let's start with Serration, a mod that increases our base damage. At rank 0, it gives a 15% damage boost to all base damage of the weapon, increasing in 15% increments with each rank, up to a maximum of a 165% damage boost at rank 10. You can also see the cost increasing substantially. I'm using a rank 0, a rank 4, and a rank 10 version of this mod, and we're trying to keep our shots consistent. Obviously, the best improvement comes with our Serration mod at rank 10, which requires only 8 shots and roughly 13 seconds to knock Gary down, but we still see better numbers with rank 4 and rank 0. Overall, the weapon feels better with extra damage, although the Endo and Credits required for a single copy of a rank 10 Serration, plus having almost half your capacity taken up by a single mod, are high costs to pay. But what happens when we play around with other stats? Let's remove Serration and try the same exercise again, this time with a couple different mods, each focusing on a different area. Point Strike will improve our critical chance. Vital Sense will improve our critical multiplier. I've used a rank 4 version of each mod, but based on this testing, focusing on improving these stats individually isn't that different from our Serration test. Each manages to knock Gary down with the same number of hits in about the same amount of time. But that's the critical stats. What about status? We talked about physical status effects earlier, specifically puncture, impact, and slash. However, there's another type of status, that being elemental. Elemental mods add damage and a potential bonus effect to your weapon. The base elements are heat, toxin, cold, and electricity, which can be combined to form many other elements, including blast, corrosive, and viral. The bonus effects are complicated, and usually are best served by a weapon with a high status chance, so we'll save these nuances for another video. In the meantime, let's look at their effect on base damage. The effects of modding for physical and elemental damage results in very different outcomes. Boosting physical status damage through mods like Sawtooth Clip or Piercing Hit only affect the proportion of damage associated with that specific physical status. When we add Piercing Hit to our Paris, the only thing that changes is the damage associated with puncture. Everything else remains the same. Plus, another downside to modding for physical status damage is that we can't add a new physical effect if it doesn't already exist. To illustrate this, I've switched to my Galaxian, which has cold as the only status effect and none of the physical damage types. If I try to add Sawtooth Clip, Piercing Hit, and Rupture for impact, you can see that nothing changes on the weapon's damage stats. That's 3 mods and 12 capacity for 0 benefit. While there are situations where modding for physical status can be beneficial, when we're looking at simple damage, it's a high cost for limited benefit, and we need to be careful not to waste valuable resources, mod slots, and capacity. Let's switch back to our Paris and talk about elemental damage. Elemental damage is calculated on the total base damage of the weapon instead of a subset. When I add cryo rounds, which gives a 15% damage boost at rank 0, you can see that this damage is calculated based on the total base damage of the weapon. 15% of 160 is 24, which appears as cold in a new category. Another benefit to elemental damage is the bonus effect for triggering the specific element. Triggering cold will partially freeze the enemy, slowing their movement. Although with a 10% status chance and the small fraction of proportional damage, this will likely be rare. But let's try putting physical and elemental damage mods head to head. Using a rank 4 Piercing Hit, which gives a 75% boost to puncture, the primary physical status, and a rank 4 cryo rounds, which gives a 75% boost to damage overall, you can see that the cryo rounds work better, knocking Gary down in less time and fewer shots. The only minor difference is that cryo rounds is an uncommon mod, which costs a bit more to level up. Now that we've looked at each category alone, let's combine a couple of these and circle back to one of the questions posed at the start of the video. What's the best balance between investment cost in Endo and Credits and damage output? Let's start with a rank 0 combination of Serration, Point Strike, Vital Sense, and Cryo rounds versus a single Serration mod at rank 2. At rank 0, the combination of 4 mods doesn't require Endo or Credits, but they take up 4 mod slots and a total of 18 capacity. At rank 2, Serration requires 60 Endo and nearly 3,000 credits, but it only takes up 1 mod slot and 6 capacity. Both take about 18 shots and about 28 seconds to down poor Gary. However, the costs for each are different. If you're early in the game with a bit of Endo and Credits to spend, the rank 2 Serration would likely be a better option. But now, let's try a different combination. Rank 2 versions of Serration, Point Strike, Vital Sense, and Cryo rounds versus a single Serration mod at rank 10. At rank 2, the combination of 4 mods requires 240 Endo and 11,600 credits, and take up almost all of your mod capacity at 26. At rank 10, however, while Serration only takes up 14 mod capacity, It costs 20,460 Endo and almost 1,000,000 credits. As you can see, the number of hits and the time it takes to knock Gary down are about the same. However, the difference in costs are significant. If you're a new player, even though the combination of 4 mods will stretch your mod capacity, I'd say the lower resource investment would make this the better option. But let's say you're already past the early stages, have a couple mods leveled up, but you still want to increase your damage output. What other strategies can you employ? Let's talk briefly about 2 other types of mods, multishot and bane mods. Inherently, most projectile and beam weapons other than shotguns and the odd outlier have a multishot value of 1, meaning that for every round out of your magazine, 1 round leaves your weapon and is sent towards your target. When you add multishot, you increase the chance of a bonus projectile or damage hit without expending ammunition. With a multishot value of 1.2, this means that, on average, for every 10 projectiles out of your magazine, a total of 12 projectiles will leave your weapon towards your target. This is helpful not only for your damage output, but also for weapons that suffer from small magazines, or folks that have trouble locking onto targets. The added benefit is that each of the bonus projectiles or damage hits inherit your weapon's characteristics, including critical and status chance. If you can achieve a multishot value of 2 through modding, you've essentially doubled your damage output. The bane mods are the last type of mods we'll look at today. On paper, the bane mods don't seem all that powerful, starting at a 5% bonus at rank 0, increasing in 5% increments up to a maximum of a 30% bonus at rank 5 or a 1.3 times multiplier. Plus, these bane mods are only effective against the intended faction, meaning that a Bane of Grineer would be useless if you're going up against Corpus or infested enemies. In practice, however, Bane mods are extremely powerful, applying their bonus as a final bonus multiplier to all modded damage on your weapon, plus a second time to any elemental status effects that are triggered. If you have a weapon with high status chance and a large proportion of elemental damage, and you don't mind swapping back and forth between loadouts or mods to suit your enemies, then give Bane mods a shot. Both multishot and Bane mods are options for the mid-game players to improve your damage. However, as we've seen, the mod capacity still limits the number of mods you can have on your weapon, as well as their individual rank. Which brings us to the last section of the video, investing Forma and catalysts. Both Forma and catalysts are rare resources, taking a long time to acquire, and taking a full day and additional resources to craft if you only have their blueprint. Forma is available as a reward for cracking relics, or as a reward for limited time events or one-off giveaways. Orokin Catalysts can be obtained through a couple different ways, including the Nightwave, the game's free battle pass, occasionally through invasion missions, or even as a reward for limited time events. And, if you choose to do so, both are available in the market for premium currency, platinum. So, what do each do and how do they affect damage output? Forma allows you to polarize a mod slot to almost any polarity. As we mentioned before, matching the polarity of a mod with a mod slot cuts the capacity cost in half, unfortunately always rounded up. A rank 3 and a rank 4 mod in a polarized slot will both take 2 capacity, so it's helpful if you rank up in even numbers. If you're using a weapon that already has a polarized mod slot, or you apply Forma to your weapon, make sure the most expensive mod of matching polarity is placed in this slot. An Orokin Catalyst is more straightforward, doubling your mod capacity from 30 to 60, giving you more room for more or higher ranked mods. And the combination of both typically results in extremely powerful weapons. But again, because these are extremely rare and costly, use them sparingly and on weapons that you enjoy or feel like they can help you progress further. Don't invest these resources in weapons that you'll put aside or throw away. Remember, Forma and Catalysts are lost if you sell any weapons with these equipped. Let's see what a Catalyst and Forma can do to improve our damage. For this, I've switched to the Prime version of the Paris bow and invested a Forma and Catalyst. It has slightly better base stats, but for demonstration purposes, it's close enough. Based on my testing, without any mods, there's only about a 3 to 4 shot difference, with the Prime still taking about 20 shots and 31 seconds to knock Gary down. You can see that my total capacity is 60 instead of 30, meaning that I can fit more and higher ranked mods onto this weapon. I can also match one of the polarized slot with a matching mod, cutting the cost in half. Now that I'm not as limited in capacity, I can use a couple of max ranked mods, add multishot and a Bane mod, and invite a couple of Gary's friends to the party. Let's see how our Paris feels now. Before parting ways, let's recap a couple suggestions. Modding is the key to improving your gameplay. Every Warframe, weapon, companion, and vehicle can be modded. Mods can be ranked up, providing additional benefit at the cost of endo, credits, and mod capacity. However, don't try to max out a specific mod right away. When trying to improve weapon damage, don't focus on a single mod or single characteristic. It makes sense to lean into the strengths of your weapon, but try to mod for a balance of characteristics. And don't try to make a weapon into something that it isn't. Pay attention to the effect, or lack thereof, that mods have on your weapon. Remember, you can't add physical status effects to a weapon if it doesn't already have these. Save Forma and catalysts for weapons that you either love or that you plan on using for a while. These are rare resources that shouldn't be squandered. I hope our time together has been helpful and has shed some light on the modding process. Hopefully, I've left you with a couple of ideas to increase your damage output and improve your experience as you push the star chart. Let me know in the comments if there was anything that stood out or surprised you, and come back soon if you need any help. What's that? Oh, looks like I gotta get back out there. Utico's got some new bounties ready to go. I'll be seeing you soon.